You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
It is Tuesday, August 6th, 64 days away from the season open. Another summer edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill. What's going on, Rosie?
I don't like this countdown. It makes it seem a lot further away than it would if you just let it happen, I feel like. But summertime.
I think it's closer, man. Like, training camps are like a month and a half away. The season opener, I believe, coming up in 3 days is going to be 2 months away. It actually gets closer for me. I'm like different than you, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like the summer just flies by when you're not paying attention, which it is doing. But yeah, 60 some odd days. I guess we're going into October with that, so that makes sense. But yeah, man, summer dog days. What's happening in T-Dot?
It's rough. I mean, not much. Celebrated my birthday over the weekend. Went down to Greta. The folks over there did a great job of entertainment. The chicken wings, fantastic, by the way. I know in the past we have promoted Wing Wednesdays. I finally had a chance to try them. Tremendous. Had the nachos, played some games, had a grand old time. Brought about 8-9 of my buddies down there, and we had a great time on King West. It was buzzing over the weekend, man.
Nice. I'll check my messages. I wasn't where there was festivities going on, but hey, you learn who your friends are, right?
Yeah, it's very true. No, I had to limit some people, man. I'm not because my problem is the majority of my friends, and you're gonna be shocked to hear this, are males. And so I did like a little a bar crawl, a pub crawl on the weekend. Some of my favorite spots, obviously leading off with Greta, and to tell the bouncer that I have 10 guys and one girl. One of my buddies brought his girls later in the night. It's a tough, tall order in Toronto. So I'm like, I got to limit who I invite to this thing, you know?
I believe it. I believe it. I know what happens when you become friends with girls, so I understand why they're mostly
It's
dudes,
tough.
buddy.
Yeah, it's tough. It's toxic. I know my parents asked me for my birthday to get a girlfriend, get a wife. I said I'm working on it one day, but I don't think it'll help if I go to the bar with 13 dudes and me. So we gotta figure out a remedy to that.
It reminds me of going to the bar after a game or on the road or something, and 12 or 13 guys on a team wheel in. It's a little easier to get in depending on what league you're in, but go in there and set up shop was always a fun evening. I miss that, to be honest with
Man, I'm so Canadian because, as you know, I go out quite a bit. So, like, obviously make friends with some of the bouncers, and to apologize like such a Canadian every time. I'm like, yeah, sorry, I just rolled up with 10 guys and one girl. Can you let us in? It's my birthday. They were nice and understanding, but that's a tough look, especially, man, I was in Montreal a couple weeks ago. There's still places in Montreal, I won't name them, where if you're a dude, you're not getting in past 11 o'clock. Like, I remember one spot I went to last weekend when I went, we had to play rock, paper, scissors with the bouncer to get in. I'm not kidding.
you. Yeah, it sucks, man. They don't want ugly mugs like ours in the places that
Very true.
entertain people physically, so understandable.
Very true, but we're feeling good. 35th birthday coming up tomorrow. We are doing a show once again, so make sure of your schedules as well. Tuesday, Wednesday this week. I've been watching quite a bit of the Summer Olympics and still baffled, Rosie, as to some of the sports I've been watching on TV and thinking, hey, can we get some like hockey in this that's not field hockey, roller hockey, ball hockey? Man, I was watching 3-on-3 basketball. It was like going to the YMCA with producer Vic and playing pickup. Like, I'm not kidding, watching that.
I know it was a little bit subpar. I don't know. Every time I turn it on, it's the same guy in a red leotard on the bars, like for a week now. I'm just like, what is going on with this? I don't know if it's a replay or uneven bars, not uneven bars. Who the hell knows? But caught a touch of Simone Biles. I've been trying to watch her and see her bounce back after a rough one in Tokyo. But I only caught about, I don't know, a minute. It jumps around. I think I'm not organized enough to I even got the app and I'm trying to like stay up and be ready for stuff. But my girl, I guess I shouldn't say my girl because she's American, but Gabby Thomas, cheering for her in the 200. I think that's today. I wrote it down in my phone. She's pretty wicked in the 2, so we'll see how that goes. But the 100-meter men's is already done. That was odd. I watched Sprint on Netflix, which was pretty awesome to get me jazzed up, and then completely missed the finals. I thought it was going to kind of be the end piece to it like it usually is, but I guess they're mixing her up this year.
It's been great theater. I think some of the venues have been great too. Paris, I mean, there's nothing better than like seeing beach volleyball and the Eiffel Tower is right
That's
there.
cool.
Like, I think they've done a great job. Obviously, I'm looking forward to like basketball, like the actual basketball. And I think if the dream team doesn't win, it'll be a surprise, but never overlook that Canadian squad playing with a lot of heart and pride right now. The women's soccer team is finished. But all in all, it's been a lot of fun to like just watch this transpire, man. You just realize how big this moment is, and the fact that these Olympians have been fighting and working out and training for years to be there for this pinnacle, this moment.
Well, the beach volleyball is pretty wicked with the Eiffel Tower in the background, but
Yeah.
I saw Team Spain playing Team Egypt.
Did you?
And,
What was the breakdown?
some obvious cultural differences in their uniforms out there was kind of neat to see. But I don't know. I think there's some hot Egyptians out there, but that's the way they roll. Girls not showing any skin, opposite of the Spanish team, which is fun to watch the differences when all these cultures get together.
Hey, if you want a breakdown of beach volleyball, you have come to the right podcast. So I appreciate you stopping by. Was there a Yanni Hakanpaa sighting in Paris, man? Because nobody can find this guy except if you're at the All-Star Charity Golf Tournament in Finland. I don't know if you saw this. I think it was back on August 3rd, but Hakanpaa was at this charity golf tournament in his native Finland, and he was rocking a Dallas Stars jersey. Like, what's going on here?
Old school one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw a big deal kind of be made of it, but to me it doesn't give anything. It doesn't say anything, doesn't change anything, doesn't provide anything new to us because he's not signed officially with the Toronto Maple Leafs. We know that. As far as what's going on with it, up in the air still. But if you haven't signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs, then you're not going to wear their jersey at a charity event. You're going to wear your most recent team's jersey, which makes sense. I don't think it takes anything away or garners any extra information on that situation. I would be interested, however, to know if he was playing golf at the charity thing. You got a bunged up knee so bad that you can't even get the doctors to figure out if you could be cleared or not. Are you twisting around on that lead edge as you're clearing the hips and finding that slot, baby? I don't know. We'll see. I'll find out if he's been playing actually or not, because that could lead to some health determinations on where he's at. But again, no new news if you ask me, judging by that picture.
We're going to send the Rosehill crack staff after this, because you're so right. If this guy can't play hockey, why is he playing golf? And why is he attending a tournament wearing a Dallas Stars uniform? But this is one of the more perplexing situations. It's very Toronto that we're tracking this for a seventh defenseman. But like, can somebody say something? I know David Alter does great work over with the Hockey News, actually tried to get a hold of Hakanpaa's agent and no response. Do you think this is just something that they're going to get to training camp, have one final, prognosis breakdown and go from there? Like, it's Yanni Hakanpaa, for crying out loud.
I don't know, man. I know. I mean, there's not a lot to go on right now, so it's something that would stay at the top, considering there's not a lot of breaking news. But it is kind of odd where, we broke it down already. You sign a guy, you should do your due diligence. Is someone hiding anything? Was there miscommunication? Did they not do their homework as far as Toronto's concerned? I don't know, but they kind of announced that they were going to sign him and then haven't signed him, and there's no news yet. So I just find it odd, man. The amount of weeks that's passed by, you could figure out if the guy's good to go. Maybe he's waiting on some kind of a procedure. Maybe he's getting in to see some specialists in a different country. That stuff would make sense to me. But other than that, it's odd that that this thing's still floating in the ether.
We're literally at a point where training camp's going to start, and I guess we're going to find out if Yanni Hakanpaa is a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. We got another fun guest lined up for today, the great Eddie Olczyk, who played, I believe, about 3 seasons for the Maple Leafs, longtime broadcaster, coached in the league. He's done everything. One of the great guys in the league, a cancer survivor, now broadcasts with his son in Seattle, a national broadcaster. He's going to drop by in about 10 or so here.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I remember the Scholastic Book Fair. You'd get those hockey, it's just pages of hockey pictures with a border, basically little mini posters. I'd pull every one of them out and staple it to my wall, and Eddie Olczyk was in one of them, and I remember I had no idea how to say his name, so that's why he always stood out to me. And now, obviously, a former Maple Leaf, it'd be good to get him on the pod and see where his mind's at about this team this year.
OLCZYK, that's the spelling, man. It's I had to Google it like 17 times because obviously I'm very familiar with the name. I've interviewed him a bunch, but getting that proper spelling took me a while. By the way, Sean Gaudette writes in, last time I checked, he's a free man and can golf leisurely, a lot different than hockey. So there's your breakdown from Sean in the chat on Yanni Hakanpaa, Rosie.
Ooh, we struck a nerve. But what if it's a left knee anterior tear and he's stacking and tilting on his lead leg and clearing that shit You don't think that's going to provide stress on the ACL? You don't think we can ask these questions? Sick of this chat calling us out every day. No, it's good. Keep us in check.
That's a journalist right there. At the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit the LeafsNation.com. The opening segment brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ. For a good time, find Greta, which I did over the weekend for my birthday. 590 King Street West. Weekly specials, live sports, over 60-plus arcade games. Go big. Go to Greta Bar YYZ. So since we last spoke last Friday, Ben Danford, who I saw at a golf tournament last Wednesday, signs his ELC with the Toronto Maple Leafs, 31st overall this past June. Plays for Oshawa, 6'2" defenseman, physical, shot blocker, loves to muck it up. Exactly what this team has needed for years, Rosie.
Yeah, I know. I think they're drafting with the trend of big, strong D-men being valuable. That's a thing again, as it should be. I think you look at the winners and the guys that go deep, they always have a strong D-core like that. So I like that the Leafs are going deep with that and drafting guys along those lines with a little bit of jam who can make it tough to play against. So obviously not real crazy talk about him being a Maple Leaf anytime in the real near future, unless disaster strikes. But it's nice they're getting those guys in the pipeline, and it's good to get that good drafting going where you feel confident about what's coming down. You're not panicking, you're not scouring the free agent market. You've got guys coming up who can help as far as a cap world is concerned as well, and get these guys, hopefully developing, hopefully getting better, hopefully learning the pro game, and getting ready to step up into Maple Leafs uniform, because it's always nice when you get the homegrown talent to make it up to the big league for lots of different reasons.
That's exactly it. And I mean, you look at the track record of the drafting the last decade, we'll say, Rosie, it's been harder to find defensemen, upper echelon defensemen. Not to suggest that Danford's going to be that guy. You look at guys like Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren. But I think, to your point, patience has to be the important part of this whole procedure and quest, if you will. I think it takes a while for defensemen, regardless of who you are. I mean, there's the outliers out there, but I think certainly when you look at Danford, just let him progress, let him mature, let him have some big key moments in junior hockey. Maybe he makes a Team Canada here at some point. But I want to see patience. Like, I don't want to see this kid rushed. I'm not saying it's happened before, but that's the one big difference I want to see now, I guess, under this, brain trust, is progressing some defensemen to play on this blue line long-term for this organization.
Yeah, and if people don't think it matters, who's coaching the Marlies, for example, in this organization, you're wrong. You get those guys coming up, whether they're first rounders or sixth rounders or whatever it is. It matters what they're doing, and it matters how they're entering the professional game. Mentally, it's difficult for a kid to leave wherever he's been going, go play the pro game. It's a business now. You're playing with men. It can be difficult, and to have the right guidance as far as coaching staff, taking these guys, getting them better, helping mold their minds more than anything, because I feel like all these kids can get the skills, they can do the drills, they're capable physically, and they take care of their bodies more than ever. That's all fine and dandy, but upstairs between the ears is where I think that these guys can really hit their stride or miss the mark as far as development is concerned. And you want to have a guy on the Marlies that's taking these guys under their wing, making them better, holding them accountable, making them understand what's necessary at the pro level. And I think that's pretty big for development. So, I know we don't talk a lot about the Marlies and the American League and stuff, but if you're talking about developing talent and getting draft picks NHL ready, that's the stepping stone that I think is the most important.
Certainly. And I think the big thing too, and we mentioned it in the interview last week or a couple of weeks back with Danford, go check that out, was just some of the guys he's been working with. Jake Muzzin, Chris Tanev is a guy he really models his game after. And the fact that Tanev is going to be here for the next couple of years, maybe the next 6 years, looking at the 6-year, $27 million contract, that can't hurt, especially when you see guys who you want to craft your game after, to learn from them. Like Ray On's going to be great for the kid too.
Yeah, and it's huge getting him into, all the experiences early, even before he's NHL ready. You get him to the rookie camps and the prospect camps, then you get him to training camp and getting him in exhibition games and get him, give him a taste of what that's like. And that's just huge for the development. I remember going to camps in Traverse City, and I remember the first time I walked in the Lightning dressing room, and Brad Richards opened the door, and Marty St. Louis, and Vinny LeCavalier, and Dave Anderchuk standing there. I'm like, holy shit. So it just gives you this, a little taste of what it's like, and it gives you those little nerves, and just a little bit of experience goes a long way. So it's good for these guys to get into the camps and get into the exhibition games and get that taste, and then after that get that hunger and realize what they need to work on to get to that full time. So it's all around good stuff.
Looking forward to Danford's progression, and looking forward to bringing in today's guest, longtime NHL broadcaster, former coach, former Maple Leaf, among other squads, drafted by the Blackhawks. It is Eddie Olczyk. What's going on, Eddie?
He's not hearing us.
Eddie, can you hear us? Sorry, we're having connection issues. We're going to try one more time here with Eddie to bring him on the show. You can hear us now?
There's nothing I hate more than this shit.
All right, we'll try one more time here with Eddie, but the great Eddie Olczyk slated to join us momentarily here to talk about his career with the Maple Leafs, talk about his progression and his projection as well with this Maple Leafs team. That's the big-time question in this division too, Rosie, is how the Leafs will stack up with the other squads of this division.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, we were talking about drafting and prospects and stuff like that. I remember when I got drafted the year after, around the same time, Tampa Bay Lightning was pretty dominant. They won the Stanley Cup in 2004. I got drafted in 2003, but there was just a plethora of massive defensemen. They thought that was their bread and butter. They thought that was the answer to everything. And, if you look at that era, they drafted a ton of big defensemen all throughout the entire, all the different rounds for a couple of different years. And it was tough going to training camp, having all that beside you, all that competition, all those different picks from all over the world. And lo and behold, they changed all the rules and they brought in obstruction. And after the lockout, there was basically no more physicality for a while there as far as the defenseman. So all of them just dropped like flies. It was crazy. Big reason why I switched to forward. But it's fun watching the progression of an organization try to plan for the future when you can't always plan for what the league is going to look like.
All right. Do we have Eddie now? Eddie, you there? I don't believe we have his mic, unfortunately. All right, we'll try to get producer Vic momentarily on this. We do want to bring you Eddie. He's got some great insight, fantastic insight on the Leafs and the game moving forward. We're trying our best here to connect. But you're right. I think you look first and foremost at the Florida Panthers. That's going to be obviously a difficult team to play against. The Tampa Bay Lightning. They've made some changes. But in general, I think you look at the division, Rosie, I don't think it's as strong as years past, which I think is important to bring up too. Like I put this out, an article on the LeafsNation.com a couple months back where I think this could be the year for the Maple Leafs to win this division.
Maybe, man. I look back to last year and who was everyone pumping? Was everyone pumping Buffalo and thinking that this was going to happen and that was going to happen, and it just doesn't happen, right? I'm not a big prediction guy. I know that everyone loves to do that and say what things are looking like, but to me, it's kind of moot point. Like, they're going to be what they're going to be. No one knows who there's going to be. You can make your guesses, sure, but like last year, you say things don't always pan out the way you think. I think it's still going to be a strong division, no doubt.
I believe we finally have today's guest. You're the man for being able to set this up. Edzo, thank you so much for doing this. How are you?
Can you guys hear me now?
We
good.
Can.
Loud and clearly. How are you?
It's got to be me because I'm the only one that doesn't know technology on this call. So I hope you guys are well. Appreciate the patience, and hard to believe we're I think somebody whispered in my ear some rookie training camp start in I think like 38 days. So puck drop is right around the corner. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Does it feel like a long summer for you? What do you get up to?
Well, I just had my third grandchild about a month ago with my second son, Tommy, who has become, I don't want to say relatively famous, but back on November 10th, 1990, I was a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then while I was actually in the delivery room with my wife, about 3 hours before puck drop at Maple Leaf Gardens, we were playing the Blackhawks that night, hockey night in Canada at 8 o'clock. I was getting ready to welcome our second son into the world. And I got a note from the nurse that the Maple Leafs were on the phone and they wanted to talk to me. And they actually pulled me out of the delivery room and told me they just traded me to the Winnipeg Jets. So He just had a baby girl, so I now have 3 grandchildren, and so the summer has been full of adding another Olczyk into this world, and just enjoying the time off. And before I know it, we'll be doing games every other day for the next 8 months. So good time of year, though.
Well, that's awesome, Eddie. Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
And
Thank
that's a wild story. It reminds me of when I was having my first child. It was 2013. I'm in the delivery room in my hometown, and I just got traded to the Flyers, and things were great. It was summer for me. We weren't in the playoffs, but the Leafs were playing the Bruins, and they had that epic meltdown the night that I was delivering my firstborn kid. So I'll never forget that. I remember popping out to the visiting area all the time and going, what,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
just couldn't believe my eyes.
Yeah,
So
something I know on November 10th, 1990, there's always a story or two to be told. And I don't know, somehow when I was actually in the delivery room, and just, Cliff Notes version, the doctor was at the foot of the bed, and on a scale of 1 to 10, my wife was probably a legit 4 or 5. And the nurse comes in and she hands me, a little piece of paper and just goes, and it says on there, the Maple Leafs are on the phone. And I'm like, just tell them I'll be at the game. She's going to have the baby, and I'll be there. I mean, I'm at Scarborough Centenary. I'll be there in, 20 minutes, and I'll play the game. And she comes back and she's like, no, they really want to talk to you. And, my wife's on her back, ready to go. And I'm like, should I stay or should I go? And of course, like an idiot, I'm like, well, I'll go take the call. And then sure enough, they told me that, they traded me, and I'm like, I can't believe it, and I walked back in the delivery room about 5 minutes later. And after calling my dad, my agent, Mark Osborne, who I got traded with, Gary Lehman, who was my line mate, I come back into the room and nothing's changed. The doctor's at the foot of the bed, mask on, gloves on, my wife's on her back. And she's like, where have you been? And I'm like, I didn't want to tell her. Right.
yeah.
And I'm like, my aunt's sick. I didn't know what to say. And she looks at me, looks at the ceiling while on her back, and she goes, where are we going? I'm like,
smart girl.
My gosh. And I'm like, guess. And she just looks at me, looks at the ceiling, and says, Winnipeg. And I'm like, psychic and pregnant. I mean, you talk about a combination. And next thing you know, I look at the foot of the bed, and the doctor's got this disgust on his face, pulls his mask off, he pulls the gloves off, and goes, this baby ain't coming for another 3 hours. So,
something tells me she probably felt a bit better on September 3rd, 1987. Is that right?
Yeah, I would probably say that's probably fair to say. Yeah. But I will say, I mean, we were obviously crushed. Crushed to leave Toronto, because I kind of felt like I arrived in my NHL career playing for the Leafs for the 3.5 years. But, we ended up loving Winnipeg. I ended up going there 2 different times. I spent, I think, almost 6 seasons, parts of 6 seasons in the Peg. And it's something that, I really enjoyed. So that, that stretch of being in Toronto and then getting traded while in the delivery room and then going to Winnipeg was, I think it was I would say a wake-up call, but it is a business. It's always be a business. And, look at Jay, you can speak to this. When it affects you, the player, or the coach or the manager or whatever, you're okay with it. But when it kind of starts affecting the people that you love and your family and your kids and stuff, that's where you kind of, I think most guys that I've talked to over their lifetime, it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth. But, look, they had to do what they did. But can you imagine today if a player got called out of a delivery room and was told that he was traded? There would be the way the world is now. There would be a lot of problems with the way the handling of that specific, a lack of respect for the family, and especially the woman and that's involved in the unborn child. So times have changed, but like I said, I loved it in Toronto and ended up loving it just as much in the Peg.
That is a wild story, and yeah, there'd be some hurt feelings this day and age.
Yeah. The Players Association would be involved for sure. That.
I would think so. But it's something to be said too, because the women in the hockey players' lives, especially when they become mothers, they got to bear so much load as far as organizing and packing and taking care of so many different details and being able to go with the flow. And like no bigger example than your story. She's on her back giving birth and has to learn. And I'm sure her mind was going through all the shit she's got to pack up with this baby, right? So pretty interesting stuff. As good as they do have it when they're NHL wives, there's a lot they got to go through as well. But moving on to the Maple Leafs a little bit, Ed, what in general, what are your expectations this year for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I mean, I really like, what's happened on the back end, Jay. Look, I mean, Bertuzzi, obviously is a tough one. It's just, a little bit of a different look, a little different dimension up front from the forwards point of view. But some other guys are going to get an opportunity. You got to step up, and, that's what it is. But I mean, I like the mindset of what they've done there on the back end, getting some experience, getting a guy like obviously with Tanev and OEL there to, just bring in that, obviously like Ekman Larson winning last year, but, I think Tanev's a winner. He's the type of guy that you need to have on your team. I think you can look, just if you want to go recent years, you can go the last 10 Stanley Cups and sit there and go, well, you know what? Everybody's got a guy like Chris Tanev. I'm not saying the same skill level or, skating wise. I'm just saying, like, you need to have a different piece of the puzzle if you're going to have success and win. So I really like what they've done. I mean, I'm really bullish on the Leafs, like for the first time in a long time. And I know the Mitch Marner situation is going to, it's going to be there, and we understand that. Just from a hockey guy's point of view, and again, there's probably maybe for a different day and a different conversation, but when you have a player like Mitch Marner, and it seems to happen more often than not, is when you have a guy really, I think that is in the heart of his prime and is only 26, just turned 27, I believe, in recent months in April or May. And he's in the last year of his deal. The deal handed out where he really didn't get a lot of his free agent years, and
I know we lost him here. We're gonna try to get Eddie back in the fold here momentarily, because he had a great thought on Mitch Marner. So we'll try to get Eddie back here. But I think what he was going on to say is talking about Mitch Marner, how maybe it was a smart decision to hold on to him for one more year, Rosie.
Perhaps. And you know what? It's hard, man. It's hard to say. It's just so difficult to make a deal like that, whether you want to or not. Yes, he's a good player. Clearly wasn't good enough to get them anywhere, important. Nobody on that roster was, no matter who you're talking about. No one took the bull by the horns and said, I'll take this team to where they want to go. It's just constant disappointment in the playoffs. And that's not all on Mitch Marner. But when you look at, like he's saying, it's his prime. Could he do something special and get him over the hump this year? Yeah. Could it be different under Craig Berube? Yeah. We got you back, Eddie. You were talking about Mitch Marner being in his prime and having him one more year.
Yeah, sorry guys. I don't know. I think I got to upgrade my my internet here. I got to get the pop cans and hockey lace untied or something. So hopefully you guys hear me okay now.
You bet.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So I guess what I was just getting at is like, if you're the manager or ownership and you got a guy like Mitch Marner, who we've seen over the years really grow, and let's just take the player. When they get to a spot where I think he's right in the heart of his prime, and in my opinion, to be in a situation where I don't believe that you can give players now, and again, it's got to be a philosophy of the organization. I don't think you can give the players everything unless he's an absolute Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, we can go on with those guys. I don't think you can give them the full Monty. I don't think you can give them the shorter term deal where they are free agents, unrestricted free agents at 26 or 27 years of age. I mean, the perfect example was Matthews latter, right? Like he was an unrestricted free agent going into, and he decided to stay in Toronto, which is awesome. What I'm saying is that when the team puts themselves in a spot and a player isn't really, and you think and project that he's going to be in the heart of his prime, I don't think that you can do this for every single player and just give them the absolute no trade, no movement, because if you get in where you don't feel and you don't want to be in a spot where the player might want to leave, is that you can't let a player like that leave for nothing. It puts you in an unbelievable spot. And take it on top is that just think about all of the, regardless if the player or the team wants it, and we know they don't, is just think about all the extra added questions and pressure over the course of the year is what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen. Like I understand of getting a player into age 26, 27 and pay him a lot of money, but I don't think that you can also put in a spot where you have, as a team, you don't have the ability to be able to do what you want to do. You know, like players, if you pay them enough or whatever, for the most part, I think guys are they're going to sign the deal because, Jay, we know this. It is always ends up being about the money. And if a player isn't going to sign because you're not going to give them a full no trade or full no movement, well, then you got to play the game. Where's he going to go? Okay, if you want to go over to Russia or you want to go to Switzerland play, then there's no better league in the world. So I just think I see it more and more is where teams are just they're giving really good players everything, where I would draw a line as an organization and go, okay, look, we're going to pay you and we're going to let you get to free agency possibly at 27, but we're not going to let you drive the bus. We're going to drive the bus and we're not going to give you everything. So, and I know I kind of went a little bit off there, but getting back on the subject, I like what the Leafs have done, and I don't know their caps. I don't know exactly the availability for cap and whatever. I mean, yeah, do they have holes? Yeah, but I like them better than I did last year, and we'll see how it all plays out.
So naturally, a lot of that goes to the previous administration and some of the contract negotiations before, Brad Treliving comes in. But I think, the intriguing part for many of us, if it's one thing, they're going to come back with Mitch Marner. How's he going to coexist? How is he going to mesh with Craig Berube? So to that point, what do you think of the Berube hire here?
Yeah, I loved it. I really think that the man known as Chief, we all know who the original Chief is with the Leafs, obviously George Armstrong back in the day. So I got a quick story. If I could tell you George Armstrong's story, just remind me before you guys cut me off. Give me about 2 minutes. But look, he's a winner. There's no middle ground. There's no middle ground with Craig Berube, and I think it was a terrific hire. And look at. There were some teams out there and that chance, and they didn't step up to the table because he was one of the more well sought after coaches, and he's going to put his fingerprints all over this team, and it's going to be, the players are going to know where they stand. And look at, you might get called out, you might get called out on the bench, you might get called out in the locker room. But he's honest as the day is long, and I never had a chance to play with him. I wish I would have played with him because all he did was chase me around the rink my whole NHL career, tell me he was going to kill me. But that's what the day, that's what the days were back in the day. And I became friendly with him when he was coaching in Chicago with the American Hockey League with Chicago Wolves, so I got a chance to know him there. And then we were teammates last year at TNT down here in the States doing television. So, I think it's going to be different. I think Leaf fans are going to be on the edge of their seats. And, I think the media is going to be on their toes, because if somebody asks a question that Chief kind of feels is maybe out of line or
stupid,
maybe not appropriate, he's going to let somebody know, which I think is A-okay, because it's going to bring some going to bring some color to the media conferences there in Toronto.
So for Leafs fans, Ed, obviously they've come up short of what their goals have been without question. Some people thought changing up the core four would have been the answer. That didn't happen. Some thought, Mitch Marner, all the things we just talked about didn't happen. So we're going ahead with similar, core group of forwards. In your experience and over 1,000 games in the NHL, how much does a coach have, not control, but influence on how a team plays? Can they get this same group to play drastically different, especially in the playoffs? Can Craig Berube accomplish that?
Yeah, I think he can. It does come up to the individuals. I mean, at the end of the day, schemes and all that kind of stuff, you got to go out there and be able to execute. But look at, the team will be judged without question come playoff time. And, like I said, I think they've made the right changes and the right moves to be able to help them, facilitate. And look, does it mean they're going to win 2 or 3 rounds? No, it doesn't. But I think that especially on the back end, I think they're much more well suited for, where they want to get to. And look, there's some tweaking that probably needs to go on, and but you never know what might end up happening, and you just never know when a situation is going to arise, and you got to go ahead and jump in, because look at this window here is open, but the longer you go, the window continues to close at that.
Yeah, time continues to move. And I wanted to ask you as well about our bona fide sniper, Austin Matthews. What comes to mind when you hear that name? And obviously the next couple of years are going to be kind of cool to watch and document in the NHL with Alex Ovechkin chasing Wayne Gretzky. But we say this on a daily basis. We watch Austin Matthews. The sky seems to be the limit for this kid when it comes to goal scoring, doesn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, Nick. It's he's as pure as a goal scorer that you want. I mean, he has just he can score really any situation. He can put himself in a spot. I don't think he gets enough credit for being able, for how he does get to those holes or gets to those areas, and then he's able to get the puck and be able to score a lot of different ways. I mean, he's just got unbelievably smooth hands, and having been a center and having my best year in Toronto, my first year in Toronto, where I went back to my natural position of playing center after playing the wing in Chicago my first 3 years. Scored 42 goals my first year. And so knowing the position, understanding that, it's not easy to score goals in a National Hockey League, but you're right. I think that, this guy is the limit. And, I was touting him for MVP last year when he was on pace for one time. I think for like maybe a couple of days, he was on pace for like 72 or 73, which was, just absolutely incredible. And I know, somebody said to me, "Oh, what's the difference between 69 and 72 and 73?" I know you're right. I mean, to score 9 goals for any guy in 1 year is just absolutely incredible. So, I'm a big fan. I always have been, and just very impressed with the way that he's able to, find those holes and do a thing that is as tough as anything in all of professional sports, is to put that disc into the back of the net with goaltenders there trying to deny. So, but I'm a huge fan of him, and would I expect him to score 70 goals in a season or two before it's all said and done, Nick? Hell yes. Yeah. Because I think he has that ability to do it. And not many guys you could sit here and say right now and go, look, I believe like Wayne Gretzky, if he wanted to, Gretz probably could have scored 120 goals in a season if he wanted to. I believe that. I believe Mario Lemieux could have had a 75 or an 80 goal season. I don't say if he wanted to, but I think certainly he did, because when you look at the numbers and you look at, the injuries that obviously Mario played with Mario and coach him for a tad when I was in Pittsburgh, but this is an unbelievable skill, and it's just not easy. And I think a goal scorer today, could do it back in, my day, so to speak. And I think the guys of my day, the greatest goal scorers at that time, guys would come in, and I quite frankly, look at, you want to take a guy like Bossy or Yari Curry or Wayne Gretzky or Mario Lemieux. Those guys would all be on top of the goal scoring list. That's just my gut feeling. I don't care what era that those guys are. And then you look at the equipment and change and the rules and everything. So, yeah, I mean, Austin Matthews to me is, he's as good as it gets right now in the National Hockey League. And to me, I would be shocked if he isn't a 70-plus goal scorer a couple of times over his future Hall of Fame career.
And speaking of Leafs legends, you mentioned, I don't know if everyone knows George Armstrong, a pretty famous Maple Leafs captain, played through the late 50s into the early 70s, I believe. I think he's got 4 cups with them. Absolute legend. His pictures everywhere throughout the dressing room. You've got a George Armstrong story. We've definitely got time for it.
Yeah. He took over as coach, and Chief hadn't coached in any hockey since, I think it was like 17, 18 years. I think he actually coached the Marlies at one point, the junior team.
Yeah.
And he took over the NAL team, and he came in the morning and said, pretty much, he was a scout at the time with the Leafs. And George Armstrong came into the locker room and said, guys, look, like, I really don't want to be here and coach, but if I want to get paid, I got to coach, So, so we have a little snicker at that. And he says, hey, guys, look, tonight during the game, like, if you're not sure who's up, just yell, hey, Chief, who's up?
No, we lost him. Damn. It's okay. I'll let Eddie run. Should we do that, Rosie?
Yeah, hey, that's the way she goes sometimes. But I have a feeling it was a pretty nonchalant coaching stint. I think it was 88, 89, if I'm looking her up here, that he had a hold of it. And it sounds like he just let the boys do their own thing and wasn't too terribly invested in the process.
So we thank Eddie for hopping on the show. That was some great stuff, great intel, some great takes. He does a great job, man. Just so down to earth. That story, I didn't know that story about when he was traded from Toronto to Winnipeg. Like, that's crazy. And it just shows you how different the times were back then, especially no social media, right?
I know. And like, how urgent was it to get, I guess he got he's given birth to a baby, and you still pull him out of the room. I thought he was going to say, and then the baby was in the doctor's arms when he came back in. I was going to lose it. Like, that would have been the worst thing ever. But yeah, I guess they didn't want him to come down to the rink. I don't know what the thought process was, but yeah, like you say, to imagine Mitch Marner is in the delivery room right now, and he gets yanked out to get him told he's dealt would not be very cool. It would hit social media hard, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's true. I think we have Eddie back just to finish the story here. Oh, no, we can't hear you, Eddie.
One more time. How's that? You guys?
There you go. You're unmuted.
Go ahead,
right,
bud.
So George tells us, hey, tonight during the game, if I don't tell you who's up, just say, hey, Chief, who's up? So we're a couple of shifts into the game or whatever, and I thought my line was up, and I turn around to George Armstrong, and I yell, and I'm one of the first guys to yell, hey, Chief, who's up? And he looks at me and he goes, Pulford, Ellis, Keon. And I went, Pulford, Ellis, Keon? I mean, you played with all those guys. And I look back, and he gives me a wink. He goes, Olczyk, Osborne, Lehman. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. So, one of those Leaf legends standing behind the bench and having a little fun, standing behind the bench, talking about some great Maple Leafs that he played with, and kind of finished up the season. And then Chief retired from coaching, and then we all moved on. So that's my George Armstrong story, and I'm sticking to it.
Phenomenal. Edzo, this was so cool. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your summer to do this, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much.
See you guys. Thank you. Sorry with all the problems. Be well. Have a good summer. See you.
All good. Thanks, Eddie.
Take care. Eddie O, one of the best. I want to ask him as well about broadcasting with his son. One of his sons, Nick, do a great job out in Seattle. They just have so much coverage in the game. Loves his ponies too, Rosie.
The racing ponies or what?
Yeah, he's big into that game, man.
I should pick his brain on some of the big races. You can win some good money in that damn thing if you sprinkle a couple across here and there. I remember I've flushed my bank account a couple of times in the right way with those ponies before, although I don't know a lot about it. Be nice to get the inside track.
It would be. So many thanks, Eddie O, for dropping by. It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So let's talk about the line for Austin Matthews. What's your projection for goals this season, coming off a 69-goal campaign last year, Rosie? It's going to be hard to duplicate, I think, over 65 again. A lot of things have to go right, in my opinion.
For sure. And if you look at his last standout season, it wasn't matched the next one. And because I think and hope that this team's going to be a little more well-rounded and they're going to kind of spread it out a little bit, they're going to play a little bit more north-south hockey, like Chief says. And I don't think they're going to have to hopefully rely on him to put up 70 and 80 goals. I'm going to say it's a little bit less than he got this year, and I think that's a totally okay thing, but I would put the over-under at, 61 or 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, if I'm handicapping it, probably around 60, which is just ludicrous. Elite company for that.
We're like short selling it at 60. That's insane.
Well, I mean, you remember a couple years ago, he played with a bum wrist for the majority of the season. Would he still score like 40? I mean, it comes so easy to this guy where it's like you think a number is so absurd that he'll never get there. But I do firmly feel like it's Austin Matthews and the field when it comes to goal scoring. So if he's healthy, I think he's winning another Rocket Richard. So yeah, I'd probably lay that number at around 59.5, 60.5. So once again, thank you to Edzo for dropping by the show today. Just a programming note once again, we're going to be back on Wednesday. Yes, a birthday edition, just like we did for you a couple weeks back. And former Maple Leafs defenseman Corey Cross is going to drop by. That should be a lot of fun.
I know it's a kind of a nice blast from the past name of what I remember of Leafs era for sure. So that'll be cool to pick his brain, see if he's got any different insights from anyone else on the state of the Leafs right now.
The Pat Quinn era, man. I just want to get as many guys on from that era because I told you my Pat Quinn story, I think, when we started, but I met him at the World Junior in like 2009 in Ottawa. I was staying at the same hotel as like the junior teams, and we were in the elevator with him and his wife. He was like the nicest guy on earth, man. Just like exactly how people describe Pat Quinn. That's exactly how he was in person. Here he is, the coach of the Maple Leafs, or past that time, but former coach of the Maple Leafs, now coaching the junior team. That was it was only so fitting that they score that goal, the Eberle goal, and win that tournament because of who they had behind the bench. So it's always great to hear those stories. Again, we're going to touch base with Corey Cross coming up tomorrow. We're going to talk about Jake McCabe on tomorrow's show too, where he fits in, where he slots in. I think it's a perfect conversation to have with a former defenseman, a shutdown defenseman in Corey Cross. So looking forward to that tomorrow, Rosie.
Yeah, me too. Good to pick these guys' brains and break down what else we got to break down. It's slim pickings right now, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, there's still lots to look and think about with this team coming up. As you mentioned at the beginning of the show, this season is creeping up on us, dude.
Yes, it is. 64 days away. Again, thanks to Eddie Olczyk for dropping by. Everybody in the chat, you guys are fantastic. Once again, to join us in early August the way you have. You've been so consistent in terms of viewing and listening, and we really, really appreciate that. At the Leafs Nation 401, at the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcasts. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Many thanks to producer Vic, as per usual. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga, and we'll talk on Wednesday. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.